All right, let's go ahead and continue on this process. Grab these faces, and I am going to extrude them. So now we have that little offset there. I think that this has it starts off at 1 radius, and then I think it gets a little bit wider at the base. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to scale this a little bit up there. And then there's all kinds of stuff happening here, so I'm not super worried about it being perfect. Doesn't have to be the exact same scale value there. And now let's just add some edges to try to get some of this. Let's see, this could probably go down a bit. And if that goes down, maybe this goes down too. I'm going to go ahead and insert we'll do an insert edge loop like here. And also, it would be probably better to be working, make sure I'm doing verts. There's another component that we haven't talked about called UVs. I mentioned it in passing. Why? Let me just go to my select here. So you'll see it over here when you pop up on it. Just make sure you don't click it on accident. So I was going to say it's probably best to be working in sub-D preview mode because that's kind of ultimately what this is going to look like. So I could crease this here. I guess because I'm already using creasing, I'll go ahead and do that. We're going to crease both of these little edges to get that sharp transition. So we'll go to the crease tool. And then I'm just doing a middle mouse drag to the right. So if I tap the 3 key, we're going to get that change that we're looking for. And I think I'll do the same thing. Well, maybe I'll just add some supporting edge loops down here. We'll just we'll mix it up, keep it interesting. Go to insert edge. So there's my supporting loop. And you can see, even though it's down there, when I subdivide it, it moves. It sort of scoots up the geo, and that's because there isn't really anything else here. And as I mentioned, when we work on the coffee cup, it's going to sort of average the stuff out. So as I'm working, hop back over to flat shaded with the 5 key. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to put an edge there, and then I want another one here, and then another one here. So basically, like approximately like every 25% down the shape here. So we'll just go to insert edge, and we'll just kind of slot these in here. And okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get, sorry, I've got to hop out of the tool mode. Get a little bit bigger. And then this one we can go a little bit smaller. All right, and now when I go into the sub-D mode with the 3 key, you can see we're starting to get pretty close. Maybe we'll come down and grab these little faces here and scoot them down a little bit. Seems like there's kind of a curved edge there, although that could just be the distortion from the camera. This is just my cell phone, so who knows. Let me go ahead and we'll just crease that edge there. And there's a little bit of some weirdness happening with the lighting kind of in this area. That might just be the creasing. I'm not real worried about it. This is something I'm noticing. I normally do most of my modeling in a different tool, something called Zbrush. And if you guys hang around my classes long enough, you'll definitely have access to it. Let me see, we'll go to crease tool, sharpen that up a little bit. So some of this stuff is just a little bit outside of my normal workflow. The tools are all pretty similar, and the behavior is all pretty similar, but occasionally there's just something that's like, I'm just not quite as familiar with it. So we've got this edge loop running down the center here. And if I go into my sub-D version, what you can notice is this is flatter across these two, basically like across this axis, we've got more flatness than on the sides here, which has a little bit more curvature. So if I wanted to replicate the curvature, I could just kind of grab these edges and just kind of move them out just to support the roundness there, because if you add an edge, it's going to tend to flatten out the resulting sub-D surface, and it looks pretty round here in the reference. So, and I wanted to add one more little change here. We go to Insert Edge Loop. So we'll add one here, and then one more just underneath it. I'm going to grab these faces. Got to hop out of the Insert Edge mode, go to Face, and I'm going to use Transform here just to scoot those in. And then even though these are very close, it may still, yeah, we're not really getting that sharp transition that I imagine that feature probably represents. So we'll just come over and crease this edge. And probably this one too. Alright, so this could certainly continue to be polished and played with and made to more closely reflect the proportions and kind of all the rest of it, but again, it's more, this is my intention here, is more to just show you how to go about modeling something like this, and hopefully we've covered some of that process in enough detail that you could model something comparable. We go ahead and maybe crease this as well, sharpen it up a little bit. So, and finally, the end here, if you look at this, all of my inputs, this is every single one of these, basically all the operations that I did. So starting back from our polycube, right, that was the original, and then all the rest of the stuff is each step that I took along the way that were tools oriented, not necessarily moving things around in space, but you know, the poly split ring, this is like the insert loop tool, creasing, etc., etc. So you can come back in and hypothetically you could change anything you wanted about these, but it's almost certainly going to have a detrimental impact upstream. So I wouldn't necessarily do that. What I prefer to do, once I'm kind of happy with how something looks, is I just go to Edit, Delete by Type, and then delete the history on it, and you can see all that stuff goes away, and now we just have a nice clean mesh which more or less approximates the reference. So there you go. I think there may be one more modeling demo, but I may just decide to move on to some additional content. We'll have to see how it goes. Okay, thank you.